Well, howdy, howdy. This is Cubbypotamus, and it's a great day because I am still here, and you're still here. It's always a good day. Okay, be alive. So one of my favorite places to go sometimes is Las Vegas, and I don't like gambling. Don't like expensive stuff. Don't like wasting money. Um, but Las Vegas is probably the best place, city I've seen for homeless people. I just love the homeless people in Las Vegas. Um, it's a pretty open culture in that town. Strangers talk a lot, right? So, yeah. Yeah, and I remember one beautiful day, it was Christmas break a few years ago. Um, and I flew to Las Vegas, cheap ticket, and just wanted to see the vibe. I didn't care to gamble, but I walked 50 miles and danced for 10 hours. I counted, right? Um, and yeah, I love when I go on vacation and I'm in this very happy, kind mood. Just to talk to homeless people and clerks and stuff, And yeah, I mean, so yeah, it was one morning and it was a beautiful morning. And I was totally peopling, right? So talked to the Asian lady in the elevator on the way down, stepped aside for 5-10 minutes, and she told me a little about her life, from California. And it was just such a gracious experience just talking to her, right? And yeah, it's just feeling fantastic. I think I danced the night before for like 3 or 4 hours EDM, and I didn't even get any sleep, but I just felt good. So, and I don't sleep a lot. Okay, so, it was just a great conversation. And I can't remember her face or much about her. I think she was from California. And I walked out to the bus stop because there was a Thai place that I wanted to have for breakfast, and more down parts of the strip. And, there was a man sitting there, black guy, I think. I think he had dreadlocks, which I kept track of him. Yeah, and black people are wonderful to talk to. God, they're the best. So many of them, But yeah, I bring up their examples a lot, probably just for that reason. They're soulful people. So many of them, salt of the earth. But I'm just like, hey, what are you doing? And just had this great conversation, and I think I told him a little bit about my story or something, and we're just vibing, felt like talking to my best friend, And I'm like, oh, I got to get the bus and move uptown. And he's like, wait, and what's your... Yeah, and I wish I just said, I'll catch the next bus. But I didn't. Got his, Facebook or something. But I went uptown and, I'm just looking at everyone and, see, a guy laying on the street and say, hey, how you doing? And he didn't get up, and I thought he was like paralyzed or something. And I'm like, well, maybe I can bring him some the cheap breakfast for $5 at that Thai place. And then I come across another man, living in a shopping cart, from a shopping cart, and I just stopped and said, well, hey, are you hungry? And he said, well, yeah. And I said, oh, okay. Went and had a great breakfast and talked to the people there. Came back, with a couple meals and, gave one to the second man in the shopping cart, And yeah, he was just so happy. And it wasn't about the fucking food, I'll tell you that much. I don't think he gave two shits about food. We have to eat most every day, if we're lucky. Um, no, it was just someone looking him in the eye, fucking paying attention to him. And you know how many people won't look you in the eye and how shitty that feels? Like you're less than human. I imagine. I don't even know. Not gonna pretend to know how bad that must feel. You know. And he was just so honored. I think he offered me a bottle of water, and he's like, I got a gift for you. And he gave me a pair of skinny jeans with the ink tag still on them. Not sure where those came from, but it was just awesome. You know, and a couple weeks before, I made a pretty stupid video, or just came out bad, of the 100 things I'm thankful for. And the first thing was I was thankful that I didn't have a pair of skinny jeans. And 2 weeks later, and I don't even remember his name anymore, is black from like Mississippi, I think, or New Orleans or something like that. And he's just a very intelligent guy, you know, and you know, he just wanted someone to share his thoughts with, you know. And I don't think that we think of homeless people as being smart, you know. We think of them as not being ambitious, you know, but you got psychological problems. You know, it only takes a mistake to lose your job, right? And to not have savings, to lose your home, and to have no one to go to. Happens all the time, professionals, homeless, right? And even people who aren't necessarily educated, but very smart and thoughtful and well-read, you know, in a lot of ways, you know, or whatever way they are, right? You know, but that guy, he gave me the skinny jeans, and he said that I was thankful that I didn't have them, you know, and I was almost like, no, I don't. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. I fucking love that. I was so excited and so happy. You know, that's awesome. Just a funny story, you know. Oh, yeah. You know, and with homeless people and all people, you know, you know, all bets are off when you really look at them in the eye and really connect with them, you know, when it comes to whatever fucking demographic they belong to. You know, I can have a lot of problems with this ideology or that, you know, and talk to a fervent supporter of it or whatever. And, you know, it just doesn't fucking matter anymore. You know, might not, you kind of avoid certain things, but, right, you can be real without the politics, you know. You know, and someone like that, you know, people are kind to him. Well, is this a scam? Are they trying to proselytize me? Right? Do they have some ulterior motive that's beyond just interest and, you know, maybe kindness? You know, and I think it's fucking stupid to call that sympathy. Kindness. At least I hope that's what it should be, right? Compassion. You know, and autistic people especially need to be careful, you know, when giving to the homeless, you know. personally or whatever, because we're susceptible to, we can be gullible. I can be gullible. A person acts nice, and I just think they're nice sometimes, right? And, someone has a really contrived story, and they're pointing to their wounds and looking at you really earnestly and stuff, I wouldn't give them more than $1 or $2. If they aren't trying to get your attention, if they don't even have a cup sitting out, or if they do have a cup, I mean, it's fine to ask for money when you need it. But, if they're not trying to give you a sob story and they're just kind of minding their own business, I think that's a really good sign that, that they're not going to try and use you or anything, that you can have a straightforward conversation, right? And just show a little kindness, because the hardest part ain't starving, it's just the animal in you starving, right? Just fucking, well, maybe it is starving, I don't know. You'd have to ask them, right? I have no idea. But the thing maybe you want from people most, put it that way, what you really want from someone more than anything is just to be a friend. And if it's a 10-minute friend, so what? Why would you feel bad for just giving 10 minutes of your life, And, sometimes maybe it's better that way because there's security in that. If you don't keep in touch with someone you don't know is on the up and up. But when you feel that bad, just some genuine compassion means everything, right? And again, all the demographics and all that shit, politics, whatever, just ideology just doesn't matter when you do it right, right? So a couple tips, it's always eye contact, and eye contact means a lot to them, but make sure that you just don't overdo it, Maybe don't go over 3 seconds for a while, and move kind of close to them more than is traditional, but not too close. Not too close, not too far, but closer than average. Incline your body language to them, right? Mirror them, try and see what the expressions on their face look like, think about that. And when you talk, always understand that what makes a person interesting is that they're interested in things, right? You might not care at all about cars, but, maybe you got a friend who races cars and he has great stories, and you can appreciate cars and the performance or whatever, things they've done, the history, and just find something interesting in that, right? So just, when you talk, be interested in things. And, hold yourself as authentically you, Just be passionate about life and just kind of let it show. But again, not too much, right? That's the hard line to walk. If you gave a $5 sandwich to, a sweet old homeless grandmother sleeping in the dumpster, and a $5 sandwich to a famous actress who's narcissistic, frankly, for the grandma, you might get a 7 sandwich return, right? Because that'd be worth 7 sandwiches to you when she tells you her story and about her grandson from the other thought experiment where he gave sold economist widgets. But that's another thing. If you gave that to a diva, she would probably be disgusted if no one was looking. She'd be like, what are you giving me this slop for? You know, and you'd regret it, and you wouldn't want to meet your heroes after that, right? So you lose 7 sandwiches, right? That's a 14 sandwich gap, right? With Grandma, you got 700% return on your investment. With the Diva, you lost 700%. And the gap is the sandwich gap, right? There's a 1400% gap between the two options, right? You know, give your sandwiches, you know, invest your sandwiches wisely, right? You know, and a sandwich is just kind of a unit of desire, right? How much I would enjoy one sandwich, right? Just a unit of feel good, right? So you can determine which options will make you feel better by comparing them by how many sandwiches you get. Cost me 0 sandwiches to walk today, and I probably get 3 sandwiches back, maybe 2. So there's a 200% return investment on my sandwiches, or whatever, right? That's the idea, right? And homeless people might not have any food, but they got some serious sandwiches to give you, right? You know, the world's a lot better place when, you know, I think in terms of sandwiches instead of dollars, if you follow me, right? The things that we really want, you know, units of happiness, right? So, with that being said, this was Cubby Potamus. Hello. And, yeah. And maybe I'll see you around sometime.